Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the top builds for each hero in PvP. Before we dive into it though, there are just a couple of notes I need to make you guys aware of. First off, we're using the website warcraftrumble.gg and it has this leaderboard that shows some of the highest ranked players, and the reason I say some is I cannot 100% confirm these are factually the highest ranked players, because for this site to pick your ranking up you have to like search yourself basically and then enter it. So I did it for me and I did it for the rest of my guild. Not that we're near 15k rating, but so there's an element where these may not be strictly the first, second, third, fourth, and so on highest rated players, but at 15,000, you know, like 12 to 15,000, they are certainly quite high for this point in the game, I would say. So it's worthwhile looking at the builds. You know, we can only look at what we know, right? So and when most players stop at 9k total, which is 3k on 3 heroes normally, when you start talking about, you know, another 5-6k on top of that in terms of honor, these are certainly players who are playing the game quite seriously, as well as maybe swiping a little bit to help out with that. But regardless, let's take a look. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be basically filtering by the heroes along here, and then we're going to just pick the one with the highest rating, and then we're going to look at the build and see what it looks like, because there are some very interesting things that have gone on here. And shout out to Hannah's Cat Cafe, who sent me this on my stream today and told me about it, because I did not know this existed. So thank you for that. We checked out some builds on stream, but for now let's take a look hero by hero. So first off, there is everyone's I'll say favorite. You love to play it, hate to play against it in PvP at least, Baron Riven. So let's take a look. So the highest rated player is Ryan Riven. Okay, so if you click on this, you then you don't only just see the Baron build, but you see there this player's top 3 rated heroes. Hoger, very interesting, Tyrion. And then you can scroll down and see everything, right? But for now, just for this video, you guys can play with it later. We are just going to look at each build. So for Baron Riven, they're running the Chill of the Grave talent. No surprise, basically summon skeletal mage instead of warriors. Mages are about 8 billion times better than warriors because they are ranged, they have slow, and they do elemental damage, I think. Next up, interesting one, is the Ghoul, a 2-cost, nice, cheap tank unit with this talent, which is Cannibalizing grants armored for 10 seconds. So again, the more and more I see of these, the more I'm realizing that very cheap, low-cost, high-value units seem to be the way to go in high-level PvP. And again, giving... Not only then does this ghoul heal when it cannibalizes and eats the corpses, but it also then gains armored, and 10 seconds is a long time in this game. So I can definitely see why that's been chosen. Next one is Necromancer. Very popular choice for Rivendare, because again, Rivendare's top traits, 2 of them are undead. And this is summon skeletal mages instead of skeletons, or skeletal warriors, or whatever you want to call them. So again, similar to Baron Rivendare's talent, mages are better than warriors, so always get mages if you can. I don't have this talent, and now I wish I did. So yeah, those are the 2 undead slots that you don't have to fill, but it helps. Next one, to no one's surprise, although we probably see some differences a little bit later on, it's Safe Pilot. It does have the cloaking device. Maybe not strictly the best in terms of some people's opinions, but the easiest one to use, the easiest go-to to sort of guarantee X amount of damage, and stealth is very strong, as is ambush. So yeah, if you are confused about what to take for Gnomish in general, for the Safe Pilot, go for Gnomish cloaking device. Next one, an extremely popular mini in PvP, one I personally dislike, but I don't dislike it because it's overly bad. I just don't like playing it because I feel like it never achieves enough for me. But also, I am not playing decks in this style as well, the very, very cheap stuff. So it's going to be Quillbore, Unbound, which maybe we'll talk about Unbound in a different video. I will not rant too much. But it's going to be Quillbore with the Bristleback. So deal a small amount of damage to melee attackers. So this is mainly used to be more, have a greater ability to do a couple of things. Contest chests in the middle, because it's kind of called Bristlebore. Quillbore is very slow to actually deal damage and take the chests, but when you're contesting them and fighting, a lot of the time it is melee that's trying to take them, and that can help out with that. But it's also really good for, because it is unbound, if you have a ranged unit or a squishy unit coming up to a fight, you summon the Quillbore right there you go, you know, right between your squishy unit and their hopefully melee unit, or physical, I guess. I think, yeah, it's melee. And then that starts to tank, right? And suddenly, not only is it tanking, but it's managing to deal a little bit more damage back. So I can see the value. And again, I think the main thing is it's cheap. Next one, a staple of the game, whether it's in PvE or PvP, it's the Whelp Eggs with damage nearby enemies when hatching Flame Burst. So the go-to talent for Whelp Eggs, very, very powerful, like I said, to not only do well in PvP, but also cheese heroics. A lot of the time it's very good for. But yeah, again, I think Whelp Eggs by itself, not overly strong, but when you add it to everything else you can do with these sort of very, very low-cost builds, then it starts to actually gain a ton of power. Next one is one I've been experimenting with quite a lot recently. It's the Griffin Rider, again, cheap, sort of air, anti-air, but also anti-melee and tank or whatever. And with the Mighty Throw, gain 3 range talent. I like this one. I'm still trying to work out how much I like it, but I think it's the best one. And it's just good. Again, it's just the fact that it's a cheap unit. There's a thing in the game right now, I feel, where there are high cost units that are strong. Huntress, for example. But what if for every Huntress your opponent plays, you can play 2 or like 2.5 minis yourself, right? That Huntress then has to do work, or you've just played more stuff than them and outvalued them. And I think that's going to be a theme as we go, especially with Baron, who's naturally going to be sending those skeletons or skeletal mages with the talent constantly at the base too. So yeah, that is the top Baron build by the looks of it right now. Very, very strong overall. So we'll see if this becomes popular. It's very interesting to try some of these out, even if you don't have the talents. So as we go back, next up we have Thanos, which is I'll be honest, a hero I do not even have. But we'll see. Oh, and you can maybe see why here. Fanta, the highest rated Thanos, at least on this site, isn't even 3k. So that should tell you all you really need to know. I'm sure there are Thanos that are higher, of course. But again, this build... Oh, sorry, I wasn't even on Thanos. Apologies. Yeah, this only running polymorph, so looking for a lot of range stuff. This actually looks more like some kind of Onyxia build, honestly, but yeah, we might skip past Thanos. Ken, okay, wait, Ken's not that popular as well, very interesting. Okay, so Ken is at just over... Hey, my Ken's nearly higher than this. Okay, I should have done this, okay. Let's take a look. So Ken now, again, these heroes not as popular in the higher ranks. I think right now, a lot of the higher ranks are a very small subset of heroes, but we will get to that. So Ken rocking the reincarnation talent, sure. The one I use, not too bad at all. Although I think Ken's Planeswalker and even the other one, what is it? It's a Daze talent or something, right? Is decent. I like reincarnation. Ogre Mage, gain Frost. Okay, so it has a slow effect as well. Darkspear Troll with Headhunting. Surprising, because I do think the healing factor one, I can't remember, is it Big Bad Voodoo, is stronger right now, especially now with the tower. Banshee with Will of the Necropolis, which is fully heals the target. I think this is the best Banshee one. Griffin Rider, again, with the range, not too surprised. Safe Pilot, not too surprising. Harpies with the deal double damage on first attack. And I'll probably say Harpies feel like the mini I've seen the most variation for in talent usage. I've seen a lot of deal double damage, I've seen a lot of poison, and I've seen a lot of the mining ability, mainly with rend builds. So yeah, we'll see if that has anything to go by as the game continues. Moving on, we are going through some of the lower rated heroes here. Chalga, although Chalga's pretty high. Look at this, 4,750 honor right now for this Chalga. Impressive, because Chalga is a hero I've never played in PvP and I've no real desire to, but maybe that'll change. So let's go to the deck. Here we go. So for those of you who don't know, Chalga kind of has 2 decks. There's the minis, which is fine, and then there's the costs. And the costs are made up of what you choose. And basically every time you play a mini, not only will your shop or whatever you want to call it refill, but also the cost will roll from between all of these costs. And I think it does cycle through them as well. So if you look at this deck, let's just go through the talents first. Deploy cost reduced by 1, very nice. Polymorph, relatively cheap spell, and also helps gain gold if you kill the golden one. Quillbore, Bristleback, we've talked about a lot. Huntress with 50% additional damage to the initial target. Personally, I prefer the Stealth and Ambush, but I can definitely see arguments for both. And if you'll note, Huntress, 5 cost, everything else is 3 or below. Safe Pilot, now this is something you'll start to see more commonly as well, with coming in hot. Deploy twice as fast and burn nearby enemies. So you don't get necessarily the guaranteed gun blast that Cloaking gives you with the ambush, but you can get it down faster, which is important maybe for chests, and also burning damage is relevant. I play Batrider with the burning oil drops, and that is very, very relevant. So we'll see if that becomes more and more common. I don't have that talent, but I do want to try it. Prowler is the next one. Which again is interesting. A really good mini, the Wolf or Doggo. I again have Stealth plus the Charge and Stun. This has deal double damage to enemies who are at more than 75% health. So basically, you want it in first to dive in, punch something hard, and then that brings it down. So that's kind of interesting. And then Murloc Tidehunters with 1 extra Murloc. The Murlocs, again, just another interesting one between the extra Murloc or the Bubbles. I recently picked up the Bubbles, so I'll have to try that one out since I already had the extra Murloc. But yeah, that's Chalga. I think it's a decent build. You can see what it's trying to do, where now and again you have to play 5 costs for something, but if you get to pay 2 or 3 for a Huntress, you are very, very happy indeed. So yeah, pretty cool build. And they seem to get pretty far with it. Next up, a Terror. This hero terrorized me today on stream. General Drakisath. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, it's kind of the build, yeah. So the idea of this build is you play General Drakisath, you play Frostwolf Shaman, and then you kind of just do whatever at this point, because those two things together, buffing each other with the talents that we'll get to in a second, make it very, very difficult to kill. The only real way you can do it is either kill or split off the Frostwolf Shaman somehow. But the reason is, one, Drakisath, a bit of a big boy in itself, but also has chromatic scales, which grants nearby allies the resistant trait, which means they resist elemental damage. And then we have Dark Iron Miner, probably my favorite mini in the whole game right now. Which drops proximity mines, but mainly it's just a way to mine and it's unbound. So you just have that flex of saying, I don't need to wait for my kobold to roll up. You just play it, and it contests things pretty well. Pyromancer with Blaze of Glory. And I think this is here really to back up the Frostwolf Shaman. If there's any like Harpy drops on the Frostwolf or any sort of range shenanigans, Pyro not only beats most range interactions, but then even if it gets jumped, it blows up also, killing the ranged, which helps a lot. Chain Lightning, a spell we will see quite often, I think, in the rest of this video. Spell very, very much favored by high-rated players with the stun. And I think the idea here, as I'm seeing more and more as I learn about the game, is winning trades is the most important thing, because then you just gain almost like a whole extra mini at that point. So if you can stun and stop like one attack, that's a big deal. Or kill things off. You can kill kobolds with it. You can help kill harpies with it. And even if you say playing this now and again wins me the Huntress mirror, for example, well, you then have a Huntress and they don't. Yes, you spent 10 gold, but Huntress attacking 1 extra time, did I say 10? I meant 2. Huntress attacking 1 extra time is worth 2 gold, to me at least. Next up is the Prowler with, again, the double damage to enemies who have full health, just to help take down anything awkward. And then this is the other key to this puzzle, the Frostwolf Shaman. Earth Shield, grant armored to a nearby ally. So the idea is, Drakisath gives resistant to Frostwolf Shaman, Frostwolf Shaman gives armored to Drakisath. So nothing really kills Drakisath, as long as Frostwolf Shaman's alive behind it, not only giving it Earth Shield, but also healing it. So this becomes a very scary duo, especially backed up with like Pyro. And again, Safe Pilot as the last choice with the quick burn is there, I imagine, to just defend. All you do here is play Drakisath and Frostwolf Shaman together, if you can, or at least close-ish together. Frostwolf Shaman, I think, is faster than Drakisath, actually. So it will catch up, maybe. But you play them together, and then everything else is used to either get you gold or defend that combo, and you just keep sending them at your opponent, it's incredibly hard to kill, at least with certain decks. I was playing Janna, so that definitely didn't help me, as the mass elemental resist was rough. So yeah, really dicey build, tough to play against in certain matchups, and maybe this becomes a staple, because I've already ran into it a lot today. I know a lot of content creators have talked about it. So yeah, that's Drakisath. Oh, I could have just done this. Grom. And Death God is the player with the highest Grom. Now, I've talked to a friend of mine in chat a lot, in my chat, Wicked, I believe, who likes Grom a lot. I don't, so we'll see what this is. So it's Grom with Savage Strikes, which again is a talent I have, but don't overly like. But yeah, do you deal double damage to enemies who are below 50? So the idea of Grom is he can take on most things that he can hit. But is that enough? Surrounding Grom in this package is going to be the Stonehoof, one of the best units in the game for me, with the double charge momentum, so you can charge and charge again, so that's really strong. Dark Spear Troll with a Big Bad Voodoo, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, regenerating health is huge. This can actually solo the tower in this current cone Dragon Tower meta, so this is very dangerous right now. Quillbore once again, but with the Tunnel Vision, which is a very popular talent as well, which instead of getting the ricochet damage to melee, it just spawns quicker. Because one of the problems with Quillbore is you play it, and if there's an enemy already there, the enemy gets to like hit you a few times before the Quillbore's even out of the ground. So this is one of those like more rapid response options. Griffin Rider, again, the themes I'm getting from better players than me are that cheap is good. So Griffin Rider costs 2. Better than Harpies as a ranged unit in general, I would say. Safe Pilot with Cloaking, Shock Horror, Huntress again with this Elven Might. And again, I might have to get Elven Might and try... Well, no, I did get it, so I'm going to have to try out Elven Might, but I'm a big stealth enjoyer. So yeah, there's Grom again. Not the highest rating, being only 3.8, but higher than 3. Right, and 3's for me the cutoff mark. Anything that's significantly higher than 3 is worth looking at, because that's when you're in the spicy meta of there being no real force level caps. So that's Grom. We've got Hoger next. Porcinet playing the Hoger. Let me just find Hoger. It's Chalga. There. So Hoger, to start off, has Ham Hock, which I believe is the kind of the go-to talent. Hoger also gains 10% max health each time he's played. So not only does he move faster and attack faster, but he's also tankier, so makes sense, right? Quillbore with the Bristleback, extra Murlocs, Spiderlings with Poison. That does surprise me a little bit, but again, it looks like cheap is the play, because you just want to cycle Togger as quickly as possible. For me, I'm a bit surprised it's Spiderlings and not like Dark Iron Miner, because I think, to me, that would just be better, but maybe I like that mini too much. Safe Pilot again, fast response with the burn. Huntress again, and then Drake with burn damage. So a lot, I guess, is this just how to deal with tanks, maybe? Maybe this is the anti-tank option, because Hoger by himself does not really deal with tanks too much, because they're taking Ham Hock and not poison, because you can give Hoger poison. Maybe that's the plan here. Like, none of this deals with tanks, but you've got burning, and you've got poison, which definitely helps. So maybe that's the thought pattern there. But really interesting Hoger list. I'll have to take a deeper look at that at some point. Now, Janna, kind of my main. Fieldsy playing a very interesting list. I think this was the one I looked at today on stream and tried to play. So you've got Janna with Blink. I run the AoE slow, so when she hits, this frost effect goes in AoE. But Blink, Janna is one of those heroes that I can see value in all the talents. So yeah, very, very interesting overall. We're going for Blink to keep Janna safe. We'll get to this in a minute. Safe Pilot, sure. Blizzard with by far the best talent for Blizzard, where I don't have, Cold Snap. Quillbore with the quick tunnel for, again, map control. Drake with Egg, I think, is interesting. And it's something we'll see later on, again, I think, where this, I feel, is just a good unit. It's relatively cheap for what it does. It's flying. It beats a lot of the other flyers because it has the AoE cone, especially when you look at, Harpies, even Whelpegs it beats. And it's just plopping eggs constantly. And even if you're in a matchup where the eggs are dealt with, they're still annoying. They still have to be dealt with, right? So I do value this more and more the more I play it. And then good old Dark Iron Miner with the proximity mines. But the Holy Nova's super interesting. It's with the talent Renew. It adds a heal over time. And for those of you who don't know, you might not have played too much, this Holy Nova deals some damage to your opponents that you play it on, and it heals yours. But the heal over time with this can be quite strong. And I think, they'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but Hannah was telling me today that they were talking to this person, the player of this deck at this rating, and they were saying the Holy Nova with the heal makes the Drake survive through the safe pilot. Because if you play Drake and they safe pilot on you, the Drake nearly dies but doesn't. And then the safe pilot has to shoot. While it's charging up, you Holy Nova, the Drake heals to full, the safe pilot shoots, doesn't kill it again because it's full. Then this breathes on the safe pilot and kills it, but then the heal over time heals it back up again. And this can be, it's not just used for the Drake, obviously, but this could be used for, like, if Janna gets hit after a blink, you just can heal her back up. So I tried this a little bit, and I don't have the talent, and I was actually impressed with base Holy Nova in this, with this style, never mind the talent. So it's something I'm really looking forward to trying, because the more and more I see this game played out in PvP, the more it's just about, did I get that little bit more value out of my units than my opponent? Because some of the games I've lost the hardest are when we both play roughly the same amount of things, minis, whatever, but they do one good play that, like, if maybe I miss playing, like, step into a big blizzard, like, they can do one blizzard and that value is insane, or they protect one of their good minis, and then that mini gets insane value, and then you just lose because you just fall behind too much. So really excited to try this out when I get the Holy Nova talent, especially. Next up is Maiev. I mean, like I said, there'll be a whole different video talking about some of the mechanics in this game, mainly Unbound, but we'll get to it. So Maiev at 5,122 rating here. Let's have a look. So the talent is deal double damage for 2 seconds after killing an enemy. This is huge because those of you who've either seen or played with Maiev know that she starts stealthed, and then she does a Fan of Knives, which just blitzes everything, even air, which is insane. So you are very likely to kill something when you play Maiev within like a couple of seconds, let's say, or within a second or so. So then you get 2 whole seconds, which is, I feel like it's 2 attacks. I may be wrong, someone can correct me, but she probably attacks once per second if you think about it. So she does double damage twice is a very big deal, especially if you're trying to, like, high damage towers or stuff like that. To fill out the build is kind of the usual suspects here. Safe Pilot with Cloak. This is probably because Safe Pilot is used more for a tower push, like plopping it next to or behind the tower in this build than it is in some of the other builds, where it's used more to defend units on board. Worgen with the increased ambush. Worgen, incredible unit. Every time you want to do something on the map, and then your opponent just plops out a Worgen, it's like, oh, it's dead, okay. It's the bane of Janna players all over the show, because Janna costs 3, Worgen costs 3, but Worgen always kills Janna, and then it just runs around stealth and causes havoc. Wellpegs, no surprise. Quillbore, we've talked about it. Dark Iron Miner with Fury, which is very interesting. I am the biggest, cheerleader for Dark Iron Miner in general, and in its combat abilities, because I think what makes it strong is not only is it Unbound, it mines, it can also fight pretty well. Maybe Fury makes it even stronger, but I would have thought it would have been the armored talent everyone goes for, but we'll see. And then again, the Drake with the egg, which might sound weird in Maiev, but I guess it's just good enough to defend, right? I guess that's the answer, is you play the Drake. Yeah, if it gets to attack, sure, but Drake is like your base point of, you play the Drake down, start plopping those eggs everywhere, then with the eggs you can react to things with the Unbound units. So very, very interesting. I am not an enjoyer of 5 Unbound units in Maiev, I get it, but yeah, we'll get to that another time. But yeah, pretty powerful. Old Murkai. Fieldsy again. Fieldsy was the top Janna player, if you remember. So Old Murkai, what's this? Higher. Yeah, Old Murkai is actually the... Wait, look at this difference. What is... So, oh, okay. So it looks like Fieldsy's played mostly Janna, tons of Maiev, and then not much Old Murkai, but has been winning a lot. Because what this rating tells me is this win rate is very high. Because if you look, it's higher rating than these, but they've played more games, or they've won more games, but they've also lost more games. So yeah, low win count, but very high rating. So let's check the list out, if I can find it. There they are. Old Murkai with Marathon of Murlocs. March the Murlocs lasts an additional 5 seconds longer. Makes sense. It's the talent that stood out to me first, is you just get to do your leader's thing longer. Murloc Tidehunters with +2 range, which is pretty interesting, and probably just a nod to the meta overall. Is some people like the bubble. I think the third Murloc for me is honestly more of a PvE trait. But this is just, I have my 2 Murlocs, but let's keep them safe. Doggo or Prowler, I guess, with On the Prowl. This is the one I use. I love it. It's so good at running down mid and getting those chests early because 1, it's cheap, 2, it has stealth, and then the lunge it does is very, very powerful. Quillbore, Shock Horror. Safe Pilot, no surprise. Bandits, again, just cheap units. Look at this curve. It maxes at 3, and even then there's only 3. 3 3s, 2 2s, and a 1. With the lockpick to get more gold, makes sense. And then Wellpegs, because not only is it cheap, but it's Wellpegs. So yeah, really cool there. It's a good, really good build to go for, because the talents are important, don't get me wrong, but I feel like this is a deck that, especially at lower ratings, will do a very similar job whether you have the talents or not. Next up is Rend Blackhand. I know this is one of your favorite. Towlad, okay. One of the higher rated players, or highest on this website. Let's go down to Rend. Wait, did I go? No. Rend's down here, right? Yeah. Okay. This is what I've been testing out as well, because I was not playing this style of Rend, but it's Rend Blackhand, you know, the guy on the dragon. Scale and Steel does feel like the go-to. I know people like Living Bomb, but I feel like Scale and Steel is just more reliable to get work done, because it becomes very, very tanky indeed. Dark Iron Miner, I'm a fan. I want to try this out, Dark Iron Armaments. After mining Gain Armored, my Dark Iron Miners mine a lot, because that's how I play them, right? So gaining Armored makes this even tankier, so I can definitely see this being powerful. Eggs, yeah, you guys know. Griffin Rider, again, cheap, cheap, cheap. The funny thing here is, Ren's passive of making flying units costs 1 less to a minimum, of 2. It only applies to Wellpegs here, because Griffin Rider's already 2. So it's Griffin Rider, Prowler, cheap with the stealth to gain the chests. Safe Pilot, it's Safe Pilot. Quillbore. So again, all of this is just map control. That's the whole idea here, with Ren serving as kind of your tank and high DPS, because he kind of does both, honestly. And then you just use this to control the map a lot. So pretty interesting. And I think the idea here is, well, your Wellpegs are cheaper than everyone else's, so that's a huge bonus. But yeah, really impressive overall. Next one, Sneed. I feel like Sneed's going to be like a weird fan favorite style. So let's go down. What have we got here? 3,600. So not much past the 3k mark, but still a relevant amount of honor past 3k. So this Sneed, okay. So it's going to be Lead with Greed. Gain additional 2 gold when Sneed triggers Sneed before Greed. Makes sense. You gain a ton of gold if you can get those chests mid, especially. Dark Spear Troll with Headhunting. Again, it surprised me that people are running this. Maybe the people just haven't got hold of the Big Bad Voodoo, but still, more damage. Chain Lightning again with the stun. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Warsong Raider. Damaging an armored enemy removes their armor. This is very interesting, actually. Makes this a bit more of a tank killer, which is pretty cool. And not something I thought about. I've seen a lot of people discuss the siege option for Raider, or the tower reduction, but not really this one. So yeah, sounds interesting. Worgen we talked about before with the increased ambush damage. Worgen pretty much one-shots anything that's not a tank, so very powerful as a cheap unit. And also, again, in Sneeds, can help get chests, because you just spawn him. Even if something's about to open the chest, he'll probably kill it and then get it himself. Safe Pilot, Dark Iron Miner, we talked about this time with the armaments. So yeah, interesting Sneed build. I've not played too much Sneed myself in PvP. Sylvanas, okay, 4.2k from Arithmal. Looks like pretty much all of them are 4.2k here. Not tons of wins on this, but still. Let's find Sylvanas. Where is she? I like Sylvanas a lot. And again, look, you're starting to see a theme. So Sylvanas here, the leader. Problem with Sylvanas, she's very expensive. 6 gold. So I was talking about this the other day on my stream, where my build of Sylvanas, although it doesn't quite look like this, cost-wise, it does. very cheap, because you want Sylvanas as your big unit, right? Your big payoff. The rest need to be cheap because she's just so expensive. Black Arrow, for me, the best talent, makes her arrow a beam and it just cuts through everything. And because it deals elemental, it helps a lot versus armor targets. You slice and dice. It's very powerful. Prowler, again, cheap, fast down the middle, mainly for those chests with the stealth. Well pegs, shock horror. Now, we'll get to this in a minute. We'll look at this last. Quillbore, usual, safe pilot short, Griffin short, all cheap, all high value, all about that map control. But then we have Null Brute with Rabbit. Reduce deploy cost by 1 and gain a cycle trait. So this Null Brute becomes a 2 cost. And I think this is pretty interesting because Brute is a tanky unit and it has cleave. So maybe this is good. I've not even thought about using this because I used this for a bit in PvE in the like when I first started playing the game because it was pretty good. But I never thought about it much afterwards. But now that I think about it, 2 cost Null Brute, I can get behind it. But yeah, if you're playing Sylvanas, definitely try and bring the cost of all your minis down. Like, try and play the cheaper things because she is so expensive. And last but not least, one I always get asked about, which is Tyrion. So let's check out the Tyrion build. Eventually, right at the bottom, perfect. And yeah, we did look at this today, actually. So, Tyrion Fordring, gonna have By the Light. A lot of players, myself included, went for Divine Shield to just keep Tyrion alive as long as possible, but they heal the primary target for twice as much. This, as long as Tyrion doesn't get picked off somehow, Tyrion heals. And we've seen again, we talked about this, there seems to be a theme. Keeping your things alive to make value trades seems to be the way things go once the ranks get higher. It becomes a much more tactical and timing based as opposed to saying, I'll get all the gold, spam stuff, and hope that works, right? There seems to be much more defensive options. And you can see, Safe Pilot, again, probably more reactionary and try and get that instant damage to deal with awkward targets to try and defend Tyrion, so it's faster, deals burn. Huntress, again, with that 50% damage. Footman with the 30% extra empty health, so Tyrion can just heal them up. Again, not too much of a surprise. Probably the go-to Footman upgrade. Murloc Tidehunters, which again, because this is so expensive, Huntress, Footman, Tyrion, the rest needs to be cheap. So Tidehunters might not sound impressive, but they're anti-air, they're reasonably fast, it's 2 separate units, and with the bubble, it means that they survive probably long enough to throw 1 more spear, which might be the difference. Chain Lightning to help with stuns again, and as we talked about with more resource control with Kobold, Harpists, and so on. And then Dark Eye Miner once again, just to help out. And again, it's important that if you are going to go expensive in parts, very similar to Sylvanas, you need to go real cheap elsewhere, or you'll just never get to play your stuff, because you might have come across it now in PvP. If you're just playing like, oh, a big thing, and then sitting and waiting for your gold to go another big thing, you're going to get outpaced massively. So yeah, really interesting builds I'm definitely going to check out. And I'm excited to look at, and excited, you know, maybe as time goes on, as more people sort of hear about this site, they can add themselves into it and see, you know, who's really at the top. But again, considering a lot of players I know hit 3k and then are scared of the credit card warriors, let's say, seeing that people at, you know, 15k, it is worthwhile looking at, right? See what works in these kind of ranks. So yeah, that's it, guys. Just another reminder, this is warcraftrumble.gg. There's leaderboard on there, there's builds, there's all sort of stuff. This is not sponsored. I'm just telling you what's on the website in case you want to check it out. And not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. But I thought it was interesting to see builds, because up until today, and other than seeing the odd build that someone I know's like posts on Twitter, let's say, I've not looked at, oh, what are people playing in PvP? All I've seen are the people I've been matching against and sort of judging things from there. So it's really cool to see people's takes on how these decks could be played, how these heroes could be played, what builds to use, what traits to use, or talents. Very, very interesting overall, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I tried to make it as quick as possible, but as you guessed, I do like to talk a little bit. But that's going to be it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.